Hello, 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 and welcome to Emerald Thoth with me, Mark. Hope you're all doing well. With another reading today, and a slightly different one from yesterday and the day before. Having meditated on the energy a bit before this reading, the feeling today, there's a sense of lightness. There's a feeling of lightness. Yesterday was talking about your shadow being the key and working on the shadow, and it feels like for a lot of people who would be drawn to my channel, this channel, is more on the shadow worker side, more on the coming forward side than having been in the light as much or in the spotlight as much as of yet. And so the feeling is maybe you're going through a time of the balance of the light and dark, in terms of you might have been through more of a shadowy phase in the first half of your life, maybe, or wherever you are at in this lifetime, is that you have been through periods of darkness, or largely a period of darkness overall, but you felt the light quite strongly. You felt the lightness of life quite strongly, not even to put it in such dualistic terms, but you felt coming to the surface more, and now you're kind of coming to the surface and you're more in the lightness of life and the universe. You're trying to balance that out with clearing some of the shadow, clearing some of the sadness and the depression, and mixing that with the joy. Because what can happen often is you can come out of that and you can go, oh, it's all going to be joy now. It's all like all the karmic debt is paid, and here's the money, and here's the relationships. It's a little bit dangerous when we get this from tarot read sometimes, and from positive thinking, which is not a bad thing in itself. We need it, and to be able to transform and transmute our thinking. But at the same time, it's to realise that there's a balance in life, and that even if you might have been a time through that, and you've got a taste, you've got that glimpse of lightness and that feeling of joy and vibrancy and enlightenment in life, and love with yourself and the divine, as much as any external validation for that, you still wade through those days where you're still going through shadow work, where you're still having to transmute parts of the past, you're still having to process past experiences and flip them round, and it's not as streamlined as you're in that abundant timeline. You are in that abundant timeline, but you're not quite in the flow of it, and that would take time, and there's probably necessary steps in your growth, and there's still probably parts where you need to be held back. The Chariot card came out, but it was talking a lot about being at the start of that journey. You're not in the full flurry of it, but that's all timed. And again, I think we have to be careful when he's really saying, oh, you've got the abundance, all this. Like, sometimes it's talking about getting into that flow, rather than that flow just coming to you moving into that flow and to that tide. Whenever you start on a journey anywhere, or especially if you start on a journey on the river, for example, you get into the flow. Whenever you go into water, you kind of dip your feet in normally. I mean, you can just crash in if you want, but normally you get in. Or if you're going kayaking down some rapids, you start and then you get into the flow and you go to it. But there's always a kind of starting phase, and this is kind of your starting phase. And it's not to be too disheartened when you have the days where it's suffering and pain and it's not here, and why am I here? Why have I gone through the suffering? And that's a question a lot of shadow workers will ask. Light workers too, and over the overall term light workers really fits both. But those who delve more into the shadow, and those who have maybe had that before they transition and things can swap round, it's really a case of, sometimes we ask, why is this suffering? And I think you're starting to get answers to, this is why. This is the path that's laid out for you. You couldn't understand things to the depth and substance if you didn't have that ability to go into the depths and to take on those burdens and to understand how to heal others. Only the wounded physician can hope to heal. The things attributed to Jung, it may not be from him in real terms, but it's often attributed to him. But the point remains the same: is somebody who's gone to the depths can only find then their way out. And it's always in the hero's journey, as like Psyche descending to the underworld, Inanna descending into the underworld, Isis descending into the underworld, is all kind of a story for us and a guidance to be, through that struggle comes the release, and comes the flow, and comes the victory. The victory can't come without the hardship. It can't come without the transition and the obstacles, because then it wouldn't be the same journey, it wouldn't be the same victory, there'd be nothing to overcome. But today is more, again, that feeling of lightness, and it's going into that feeling of lightness and realizing that it's the same. The lightness is the same as the darkness, that the joy and enlightenment and happiness is the same as the suffering, whereas in dualistic terms we see one over the other, but really they're both the same. And I think it's Ananda Ma, I think her name is, if I'm saying it right, an Indian saint, called the blissful saint she was, because she just had this sense of bliss wherever she went. And when she was like 8, 9, 10 years old, she would be out with the animals and nature, and people would think, and even Indian culture has more of a greater concept, a greater reverence for more spiritual figures, but still, you know, her parents would have been very worried that their child is going out and just doesn't show the same ambition, maybe, you know, or just show the same perspective on life. But later in her life, people would just follow her around because she had this sense of bliss. But in her words, that suffering is the same. She enjoyed as such, or she had as much reverence for the suffering of life because it was all part of one universal consciousness. And she's said to be one of the saints that's very, very connected to oneness and a universal consciousness in her lifetime. So, a feeling of lightness today, a feeling of reforming some of the parts of your life that you viewed before. It's digging out pieces of gold. It's digging out light from the dark. It's digging out things that you hadn't looked at before. You're focused one way on your journey and this path to your dream life, but actually there may have been parts in your past that you've forgotten would also be part of that dream life. Rooms that you've walked into, places where you've helped people, dark places where you've shown and held light, and you might not even know how much that impact was on people. Or you probably do. You probably had those comments that somebody said, and it has a deep resonance, but we don't always remember them, especially when we go through the darkness. Those comments don't always stick with us. They land, but they might not stick. And I'm drawn to a feather, because I'm often drawn to feathers. This one that I picked recently, and the interesting thing about this feather is the kind of iridescence. It's got this blue-green kind of hue, heart and throat chakra elements. This side doesn't. That's fascinating. You see the light coming on this side, the darkness here, and even the middle is, look how dark that is, but you can see the light can still come onto it. And the kind of quill bit, or the top bit, is dark until you get to about here, and all throughout it's quite dark. So it's a fascinating sign which I hadn't thought of until I just started recording this video, to kind of illustrate the point, the light from the darkness. And then this is again speaking from the heart as well, as coming through, and the crystals that I kind of picked up for this read are a lot to do with the throat chakra and a lightness with the throat chakra. You know, laughter comes out from the voice. It may come from our heart and from our bellies. We kind of laugh out and out, but it comes out from here. And some blue obsidian is kind of grounding the voice, and you know, being clear and transparent. And then blue gold stone, which is quite cosmic. You can see the beauty of the colours on there. It's got deep, rich blue hues in that stone, and again, it's talking about truth and clarity also coming as one of the messages as well. You're finding clarity, you're sticking to clarity, whether it's the clarity you might not want to know, and maybe it's clarity you do want to know, and maybe it's the bits that you weren't quite clear on before, the things that blindsided you on some random Wednesday afternoon and you didn't pay mind to again, the bits of our soul and our lightness and what we can bring to the world that we kind of just stashed away, and that are additional things to what we can bring to the world, and maybe keys to how we can accelerate, because we were looking at all the things that we thought were good and look at all the things that we thought were bad, and they're probably not as good or as bad as we thought they were, and there's other things in between that we might have missed out on, and other gems within us that we're now digging up and unearthing and bringing out of the unknown, or the hidden realms we might have known and they became unknown again. So it all becomes fluid. And then I've also got space orb, which is very fancily named, but you can see there is basically Chalcedony aura coated. And again, Chalcedony is that kind of light blue, and speaking to the voice, coming a little bit from higher realms as well. And and obviously with the space orb element is talking to your cosmic connections and your cosmic voice, and all of it seems to talk about clarity and transparency and lightness and laughter and things not being as heavy as we might think down here. So with that, I'm going to start with the Divine Masters. This is the front of the box, like color grey, and this is, you know, the kind of guidance and the kind of more cosmic guidance, the sense and master guidance that's looking to bring out this message today. First time I've laughed in this video, thank goodness. Okay, so two have come out there together, and yeah, okay. Let's start with the ones on the bottom. So Mother Mary, the gorgeous kind of blue on there. Again, is kind of talking about the throat chakra, talking about spiritual enlightenment, spiritual grace. Mother Mary, one of my favourite guides. She's one of my higher guides, and so I better explain. But I'm just going through like a sense of warmth and love and being held. And when you don't feel warm and loved and held in this life by anyone around you, or even if you're held but you don't feel warmth and love in the holding, that Mother Mary is always holding, as any divine kind of mother, feminine figures that you have, and maybe your grandmother on the other side, any ancestors that with that feminine aspect are holding you, are guiding you, are loving you, and in those moments where you're in the darkness and you wonder why you're here, those mother guides are wanting, I was going to say desperate, they're not desperate to come through, but they want to come through, and they are coming through to make you feel held. The only blockage to you feeling that is if you'll allow it. And, you know, I still imagine my grandma on my paternal side, so my dad's mum, holding me and feeling me, and that's kind of my route to Mother Mary, because she spoke Farsi, Iranian basically, and I don't speak it. I never learned it as a child, and I still haven't learned it yet, even though my dad's Iranian. And the only things that we could ever say to each other while she was alive was "I love you," and it was in Farsi. So Dusa Daram Gashat Balam, Juza Balam, Nasha Balam means "I love you, my darling, my baby." Gobana Baram, I love you. And that, I've realised only recently, is a powerful thing that we couldn't communicate. This is interesting that we're talking about the throat chakra. We couldn't really communicate in words, but the energy communicated. And sometimes the throat chakra isn't just speaking; it's your energy speaking. And we had a connection from that, from only using a few words, but just the energy and the warmth. And it's probably meant that since she's passed, bless her soul, for about 8 years now, that's a bridge. That's like a bridge. That love that was felt without the extensive use of words was a bridge into the spiritual realm. And so that also leads into my connection to Mother Mary personally. And again, for you, take it as any divine feminine guides or divine mother guides that you may have, that they are holding you. I just look at the warmth in her eyes. It's just utterly beautiful. And that is happening around you, whether you are allowing it in or not, or whether you forget it sometimes, which we all do, of course. So in the whole maelstrom of life in this world, in this lifetime, and sometimes we forget there's many lifetimes and there's many realms to this whole universe. If it's even a universe, might be more. But there are guys out there who are holding us like divine mothers, and even if our own mothers could never hold us like that, there are divine mothers that do. And even, it's a tricky subject, but even your mother in this lifetime, if you don't feel held by her, or your father, but talking in the feminine aspect here, when they do pass, they will be helping you and guiding you from another realm. And the same for your grandma and your great grandma, any ancestral feminine figures. Because when all of us are in that less mindful, egoic, less 3D space in the spiritual realm, it's not as heavy as it is here. So, you have love all around you, and that connection is there without the use of human words, without necessarily even the clairvoyance of having to see it. You may have the clairsentience of feeling it, the claircognizance of knowing it, and any of the kind of different clairaudience of hearing it, that it's just that warmth, it's that feeling and that sensation of that you are held. And you may have angel guides like that as well, but there's a lot of love that's here to surround you and support you. He says miraculous encounters, divine experiences, do not be afraid of being powerful. So an interesting message in the wording of when we feel held and supported like that, it is one of the most powerful things. You know, some people are quite successful in this lifetime. It can be from, not always, but it can be from the support of parents who will go the extra mile to often practically offers us support and help, but as well emotionally. And even greater than that, than getting it in the external, in the 3D realm, is the divine support that you have. It's just a case of, can you tap in and feel it? And it is cosmic, it is universal. And with that also is Hilarion, divine emergence. It's earlier in that feather, it was blues and greens, and blues and greens are here, the heart and the throat chakra. And so this is probably more speaking to you individually about your gifts and talents. Hilarion is said to have lived for about 500 years. There are some yogis who've lived half a century. This is a Kali Yuga. I'm just aware of the time. But a Kali Yuga is like basically where humans like live to 100 years and they're clearing karma. Then there are like, I can't remember the names, I'd be remiss to try and say them now, but there's like a bronze Yuga and a silver Yuga and a golden Yuga where humans live for about 1,000 years and 10,000 years and 50,000 years respectively. Which is not just a Hindu concept. If you look at how long Noah in the Ark lived, about 1,000 years, and humans before that were said to live about 1,000 years. So if you're able to break those 3D constructs and have a greater perspective of time, rather than just seeing everything in what current humanity is and egoic standards and constructs, because time is not so linear, nor is advancement of the species, or evolution the way that we talk about it. The essence of what I'm saying there is that there are kind of yogis who've been hidden and stayed away and live 500 years. The book that I'm reading, I've almost finished now, is again one that most people, if they were to read it, especially in Western cultures, and I noticed this is published by Penguin India, but not, I don't think, by the Western Penguin Books, is Apprentice to a Himalayan Master, a Yogi's Autobiography by Sri M. Sri M, in his master, is Babaji, as he calls him, and Sri Guru Babaji is his Babaji's Babaji, if you want. His Babaji lived around 100 odd years, living in caves, and looked about 30 years old, and could speak to Nagas, which are alien beings that are like basically like snakes, but they're like light beings. And I think it's Soda, like a kind of Kundalini kind of snake. Snakes are actually healing and wisdom, despite the kind of rap that they get villainized again, like dragons and some other creatures that kind of ascended and left us to it. And Nagas were one of those, because humans were just then becoming lower consciousness. So, but they're like kind of electric blue, again, light beings that are from a higher consciousness. So in there he talks about these things, which again, this is in a book, a widely published book, but the 3D ego wouldn't take much of what he's saying in there. And actually he recognises that when his Babaji, who's tapping into like Akashic Records, or just tapping into time in a different sense, in a higher sense, and he can understand past lives, he can see future events happening, and he says, in the future you will write this and you will bring this to the world, and your path in this lifetime is to bring more of this information to the world. You're not meant to just be in the caves and wander transiently like I do. And then he sees Sri Guru Babaji, who's about 500 years old, and he's just this incredible light being, and his touch is like a heart chakra awakening, literally being in his presence. So he's asking us to suspend the kind of norms, because the norms that we live in can cause us to go into that suffering, can cause us to go into our caves, and into smaller spaces as such, into hermit modes. And that's what Hilarion did. And it said people who crossed his cave just had divine blessings and healings if they were kind of drawn and they came on his path. And women who were barren who could then become pregnant. There's real kind of stuff in there. If you want to look him up, be seen and let the world know your gifts. So this is asking you to kind of come out of the cave, to use that heart chakra awakening, use of the throat chakra, both energetically and physically, in terms of using your voice, and miraculous encounters. So as you divinely emerge, there are miraculous encounters to come. So with that is Hanuman, devoted warrior. It gives me a sense of you being that warrior, the green flashing out. The golden hands is, again, like being the healer, so obviously divine emergence. Letting the world know your gifts and your healing gifts. Hanuman, obviously, the devotee of Ram, and who's an iteration, an incarnation, basically, of Lord Vishnu. It's a sense of you having these powers beyond what you actually kind of know or are told, and if you follow the regular 3D constructs, then you might not see it. And I'm drawn to the other card down here, which is transcending fear. Vajrayogini, I have completely butchered that, so anyone knows that, then they can say it to the camera. But facing fear leads to fearlessness. Embrace your power. Do not be afraid of being powerful. There's a lot here to saying, as you come into this lightness, as you come up to the surface, as you kind of stay in these kind of regal powers that you have, and you understand your cosmic origins, then there's real strength here. Let God's love hold you in strength. It comes from your divine devotion and your divine connection. Divine surrendering is actually a strength, and you probably know this within yourself, with these healing powers. It can just fluctuate from day to day, but I think I said at the start of this video, this kind of collective who is drawn to this channel are more about people who are not in the spotlight yet. Everything here is talking about emergence, showing your gifts, not being afraid to be powerful, using the strength that you have. And so following from that is Commander Ashtar, leadership activation. And it is clear that you kind of are, you're a leader of light, you're a cosmic leader that's incarnated on this earth. The purple's there, divine connection, the white light kind of there, and again coming down a little bit to the throat chakra, in between the heart and the throat, kind of here is this rainbow light, this white light. Time to evolve, trust in your ability to guide others. You are a guiding light. The circumstances that you've been through, that if you're able to balance that darkness and light, and you're able to really come forward with the darkness that you've experienced, the preparation that you've been in, then you are a guiding light for others, and there are not many guiding lights, certainly not in what we call power positions in the modern world. So you're one of the people who's here to transform and transcend that notion, and you can only transform and transcend that notion by having transformed and transcended it within yourself. Let's take a dragon guide to come in. Two. At the bottom of the deck is Mordwin, links to Archangel Metatron, your divine path, your fate. Part of it's kind of already written, part of it is free will, but it's saying that you're on a divine path, you have a divinely guided path, and you're ready to step into it. This is also like the tree of life kind of thing, or the Kabbalah tree of life, which is what the tarot is basically related to. And so it talks about your destiny, and you stepping into it, and you being guided. So obviously there's guidance with that as well. Stepping into that with confidence. Solar plexus chakra energy here is confident looking dragon. So the dragons are saying to you, be confident in your power, in your strength. But Hanuman, you're lighting up and you're solidifying. You may have had solar plexus chakra movements. You may have been feeling shifts in your solar plexus chakra this year, and possibly feeling in the sacral and the root as well. And then maybe going down, maybe going from the solar plexus down to the sacral and to the root. But there are these guides here that are also giving you that strength to show yourself confidently to the world. And here is Avebury Matriarch, which is related to Stonehenge. It's related to kind of that sense of time not being linear, portals in the world, because this is Stonehenge, and your connection to ancient knowledge and wisdom is key to all of this. Your connection to the divine, your connection to ancient knowledge and wisdom. I would reckon if you're connected and linking to this channel that you are going to link to the concept of past lifetimes, of higher consciousness, alien beings, of divine healing. It's probably not that foreign or alien to you, ironically. It's that suspension of disbelief, which we would just call belief, that gives you that kind of power. True sense of power. And let's see what the Astromatrix Tarot has to say. I'm going to take the card that was just showing that wanted to come out, which is Six of Cups. A sense of joy, a sense of innocence, a sense of being in between emotionally, of where you were in the past and where you are now and where you may be going forward. It's giving a sense of just enjoying the now, being comfortable with your past and being excited but not overexcited or indulging in your future, and just enjoying the journey of where you're going. And often as well, the Six of Cups talks to past lives and past life connections. It's mentioned a few times in this read, the book. He talks about Shriem clearing some of his karma from past lives and his journey in this life, and not sharing his kind of gifts, because he would kind of go to caves in past lives and sometimes dismiss people who wanted to learn. But this time he's here to come more to the world and teach, rather than just being all about spiritual discipline. It's also the sharing. And it's also how we speak from the heart, because all the discipline and all the teaching in the world is not as powerful as speaking from our heart. That's kind of the ultimate way we can teach. Let's see. These two. Yeah, I think we'll take these two. The bottom of the deck is... So I'll take the bottom three to show you a kind of transition. So Kalima has come up, that idea of a Kali Yuga, and the idea of leaving the past behind. This is death. So first of all, it's a transformation period. You've been in a transformation period. Notice, as in all death cards, the sun rises, and everything changes. Old structures change. So the way things are and that have been aren't going to stay. And for you, you've been in hermit mode with this. You've been wandering through the mountains, through the darkness, and shining your light. And he's saying, you can kind of step out with that knowledge and that wisdom. There's an owl on his staff, if you can see, and you're coming forwards. And you come forward with swiftness. That's what it's called in the Thoth deck. Here it's the Eight of Wands. So Mercury and Sagittarius. It's fast movement. It's one of the few cards that doesn't have a human figure on the tarot, because it's just swiftness and speed, divine communication, and you moving with that divinity in flow, like the river that's there. So the two cards that have come out from it are the Eight of Cups, Saturn in Pisces, Saturn the disciplinarian. Pisces, not the most disciplined of signs, if you consider it that, but they all vary. But it's discipline of your cosmic connection, and not just discipline of it, because that can be overly strict and not so much from the heart space, but it's forming it, it's bringing it into 3D, it's bringing it into the concepts of time and the concepts of manifestation and forming in the material world. Saturn obviously related to the devil cards, which talks about really kind of manifestation in the material world. Obviously it's not just about the devil and things like this. Too much of the devil is hyper materialism, but the senses here is manifesting, is bringing into the world your cosmic connection. That's sometimes Pisces get lost in the vast ocean of the universe, and this, Pisces kind of relates to the ocean. Here you're kind of learning what's going to serve you. You're walking away from what didn't serve you, what at one stage you felt gave you emotional stability, you felt gave you fulfillment, but wasn't quite, and you probably always knew. And those cups that have built up, you have to be willing to walk away from everything that isn't serving you if you want to find something better. And there often is better out there. So this talks about going on, again, like the hero's journey, because it's the darkness and the light of the moon here. You're going off into the unknown to seek something better, and that's probably the journey you've really been on, and you've probably already walked away, and you're just on that route of finding where the next place is, where that greater life for you is. So I think you've made that decision to walk away fairly recently. It's just that you're probably still in a bit of that unknown phase and still working out what the 3D manifestations of that look like. And so you go with temperance, related to Sagittarius. We had the Eight of Wands at the bottom of the deck, so Mercury and Sagittarius movement. It's angelic figure here as well, and there is a kind of swiftness to Sagittarius, even though this is stationary, where this angel is on here. Ankh, maybe you have made links to past lifetimes in ancient Egypt. It's the balancing of fire and water, the blending of fire and water. It's alchemy, and it's you exhibiting those divine healing gifts. So again, temperance talks about healing, and the healed earth angel is the one who can do the healing. If you're not quite healed, which is angels aren't just born healed, then you've been working on this. You've been alchemizing the being that you are to come forward and step forward and speak to this world. So the being that is going to share those divine gifts, both by what you say, but also your presence and the example that you give to others, and not necessarily one that is an example that's gone before, because this is kind of celestial, this is unique, but it's peaceful, it's with peace. You can see the doves here, and to bring that sense of peace to others, to other places, to other rooms, you have to have found that peace within yourself. So let's finish with some little guide cards to add to the message. One more. Okay. So news and dream have come out. It's kind of popped out of the bottom. It suggests to listen to your dreams. There's a blue feather here and the sky with the moon. So it suggests there's messages that are in your dreams. There's messages in your subconscious that are wanting to speak to you and that will help you along this path. And the three cards that popped out before that, for the first time in this reading, there's a sense of a love coming in. So you have romance, you have new beginning, and you have spiritual with that as well. So spiritual again coming out. It came out yesterday. There's these blues like Mother Mary. It's these like these stones here, quite spiritual sense to it. And again, this is kind of you blooming. This is a little bit like a lotus which blooms through the mud. It blooms through conditions where it's struggled to show, and then when it shows, it's quite strong and shows on the surface. So it's a sense of you surfacing with this spiritual knowledge and these spiritual gifts. And with that is a new beginning. And the fish here again remind me of Pisces, but a new beginning of again, coming out of that phase, looping back to what I said at the start of this video, what we're saying at the start of this video, of not having been in the spotlight before, but now coming out and shaking off those old shackles of places that you unconsciously were in, where you were kind of hiding your light, or not hiding it, but you weren't shining your light. You weren't probably even aware of your light was being dimmed. And bringing this forward and putting in the boundaries and having the confidence and having the belief and knowing how healed that you are to move forward, and shaking that off. As again, that's an ongoing process. It just doesn't happen like everything's just going to come at once, but we start to balance out those days where we go, okay, some days I kind of go back a bit into an old mentality. Some days I have this really positive, I feel really connected to my dreams in the future. And I'm trying to embody everything as much as I can in the now, and to be in that divine flow, to be in the flow of the universal, which doesn't really as much have a past or a future. And the suggestion there is that there's romance on the cards. The way I feel about it now is that romance can come to you in many ways. The overarching suggestion is being in love with life again. Maybe for the first time this lifetime, but again in terms of your soul's history of incarnations on this planet, on Earth. So it's being in love with life again. And as you're in love with life again, so you bring in people who are in love with life too, and quite possibly a romantic partner who's in. And the camera just stopped on that last bit where I was saying, because they've met themselves, because that person has met themselves and healed, that they are then a match for you if you have healed too. And the universe has been bringing you to this, because you're not destined for an average love in this lifetime. And if you have a mission of divine emergence as a devoted warrior, as a leader, you're going to need someone who's jointly on that path in their own way, obviously. But those dreams, those visions, that soul calling aligns and matches, and it's a sense of a divine connection, miraculous encounters. And it's not just obviously in terms of a romantic partner, it's business partners, it's social interactions, it's people that you're going to meet who match that vibration. You may have had a sense of it already. You may have gone to places in the last couple of years that you hadn't gone to before. You may have had conversations that you didn't have previously, because you're moving into that space. And the more you move into that space of embodying a divine healer, so you will find that other people who are embodying that sense of a divine healer too, and other people who are looking to live that kind of dream life that you're looking to live, of service to the earth, as a healer, as a new age, as a new kind of leader, a new power, then those people will start to align with you as you've aligned with that path. And so that's being in love with life, maybe for the first time in this lifetime, but in love with life again on this earth, in quite a spiritual way, and that brings you a new beginning. So I'm grateful for you being here. I'm excited for that path, but I'm not overexcited. I'm excited in a way that I feel like you're moving into that with grace, with temperance. You know, you're understanding what it means to be that kind of earth angel, knowing the earthly part and knowing the angel part in balance, and knowing that every day is not smooth. Some days are much lighter, some days are much darker, but overall it's all the same, and we look to blend and go in that divine flow in life as we look to bring our gifts and our voice and our healing to the world. So thank you, Divine One, for being here. Thank you for sharing this message with me. Thank you for giving me your energy and sharing your energy, and just know that there is laughter, there is lightness in this world, and you are one of the people who really and truly embodies it. So keep going, and that's the reason that you're here. And just know that there is love and guidance and support all around you from all over this universe. And it will help support and carry you as you help and support and carry others. All my love, all my blessings. Namaste.